Welcome to this week's episode. Today we're making tortilla soup. We've got quinoa tortilla soup and we've got chicken tortilla soup, both made in the slow cooker. Stay tuned, we'll tell you how it is. Hello, welcome back to One Dish, Two Ways. I'm Sheila and Joe's behind the camera. So have you ever had a day where your to-do list is massive and you know you're going to have some healthy food cooked, so you engage your slow cooker? Well, that day is for us today. And I also Googled these recipes. So these are not my own. And so I will have the link in the description box and tell you the differences that I may have made. So we're going to have tortilla soup today. Whoop, whoop. It's a little chilly out. We've got a ton of stuff to do outside and inside the house. So this is going to be perfect. And they take about the same amount of time. So we're going to start with Joe's. You can see the counter's pretty full here, but I only got the one counter. So right now we've already got Joe's inside the slope. We've already got the chicken. This is a recipe from the Pioneer Woman. So you know it's got to be good. And she calls for 3 chicken breasts, but these are 2 big ones. And they came in a pack from Sam's too. So that's why I'm using the 2. So next we need to do our spices. So we need 2 teaspoons of chili powder. So she says to put the spices on the chicken. So we're going to get that. This is a 1 teaspoon measure. So we're going to need 2. And then we're going to need a teaspoon of cumin. So I've got that right here. And then it's for the fun part with all the other stuff. Probably a heaping. There we go. And then she says salt and pepper to taste. I'm not going to add any salt because I don't add salt when I cook. Joe can add salt if he wants at the end. And I also have one item that I couldn't find salt-free. So there'll be salt in there. So let's add our fresh. So first I want to talk about the chipotle peppers and adobo. Let me show them whole first. So they come in a little 4-ounce container, just like green chilies do. And let me see if I can pick one up so you can see it. I guess there's no full ones in here. I must have cut up the last one. But anyway, these things, when you open them, they last forever. So, I mean, weeks. And so I just use one at a time. I use it when I make salsa, soups, anything like that. So there's one cut up over here.
It's just the jalapeno, right?
It's this. It's a smoked one. It's right there. Yep, it's smoked. And then sometimes you can use just the juice, and then sometimes you cut up the pepper. It just depends on what you're doing. So we've got the 1 chipotle pepper and adobo. We've got 1 yellow pepper, or almost 1 yellow pepper, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. You got 1 red pepper, and then we've got 1 onion, yellow onion. So I got all that cut up, and of course I made a mess. That's normal. Good thing I haven't cleaned the house yet. Okay, so we got all that in. Next, we need to add in our broth. Now, I know I always use veggie broth for everything I make at Joe's, but when I was cleaning out the cupboard, I realized we had some chicken broth in there that needs to be used. It expires in a couple months. So we got 3 cups. Oh, nope. I almost didn't obey my own rule. Give me a second. Okay, we've got 1 can of black beans. I did find lower sodium ones, and I drained them and rinsed them and put them back in the can so I could show them to you. And then we've got 1 can. She says whole tomatoes. That's not what I know my husband likes. So I got the puree, and it's no salt added. So that was another bonus to find the no salt added. So you add the puree in. And then we've got 1 can of diced with the green chilies. This one I found had garlic, onion, and cilantro, which I thought was perfect. This I could not find salt-free. So hence what I said about the one thing didn't have does have the salt in it. Now, what my tip is, always put your broth in your cans to rinse your cans out to get everything. And then I'll put it in this one. That way you get everything from the can and you're using that broth to do that. Okay. And then the rest of it, the rest of the chicken broth. And last but not least, you need 4 ounces of tomato paste. And I actually happen to have some left over from last weekend. So this was perfect. I pulled it out of the freezer and good to go. So that's everything. And then you put a cover on it. You put it on high for 5 hours or low for 8. And then you take the cover off. You shred your chicken, put the chicken back in, add a dash of lime, which I do have fresh lime for it, and then serve with whatever toppings that you want. So that's what we're going to do for this one. So let's move this out of the way. Now, we don't have a plug right here. So after the video is over, we'll plug these in because they'll have to go in 2 different outlets. Okay, so let's kind of clean this up so we can show you the next soup, which I need all of that. Okay, so the next one is mine. And this is from Making Time for Health. And she uses quinoa, which I thought was a really good idea to use the quinoa, but it uses a lot of the same ingredients. So I'm going to use, and you might want to check your electric pressure cooker out, but this is the Pampered Chef version because I used to sell Pampered Chef. But this one, you have the option to use it as a slow cooker, which I like because I only have one slow cooker. I don't know about the rest of you, but I have 2 of these pots just because I use them all the time. So I'm going to use this as a slow cooker today. So let's start loading everything in. So first I've got my quinoa. This is the tricolor quinoa. It's a 1/2 cup. I always rinse my quinoa. So that's why that's in that little thing. They always say you should. I don't really know the technical reason why, but I always do it. Okay, next. It needs she calls for jalapenos. I don't have jalapenos, but I've got these Thai chilies that we grew in the garden. So I thought, well, why buy something when I have something? I could have added the chipotle peppers and adobo, but I wanted to do this. And I saw this tip and I thought this was a great idea. It said that if you don't know how much heat you're in these, because these can really vary, to just break the skin a little. And that way that some of the oils and stuff will seep out, but it's not like you're getting the whole thing. Whereas if you cut it open and you got all the seeds. So that's what I'm going to do. And I've done it for a couple other recipes and it has worked just fine. So I'm going to put those in. I've got onion, and his yellow pepper looks so pretty. I took some of it. That's why he have a whole pepper. And then I've got minced garlic, the red pepper, and the yellow onion. I just love when all these recipes have just basically the similar ingredients. It's very helpful when I'm chopping and dicing and everything. Okay. So we've got that. Next, we need our broth. So this is 5 cups of chicken broth, or excuse me, veggie broth. And you know, I use the stuff from the fridge, so it didn't all melt down. Okay. I need 1 can of black beans also. I need 1 can. Oh, what did I just do? I put the broth in there instead of putting my canned items in. I tell you. Tomato sauce. I did get one that was no salt added, so I was happy about that. I get moving too fast on these videos. Okay. And then 1 can of diced tomatoes, no salt added, which I was happy about that also. There's a lot more stores that offer no salt added canned items than ever before. Now, time for the seasonings for mine. So if she calls for oregano, and I'm going to use Italian seasoning instead because that's what I have. And why not add extra? I mean, all the good things. Italian seasonings do really go well with Mexican flavors. And then she says 2 teaspoons of cumin, however you want to say it. This is going to be so good and such a welcome when we come in from getting all of our chores done. And it's a full meal. We don't have to make something else with it, which is what I like. 2 teaspoons of chili powder, but I love this chili lime from Well Your World. It's no salt added, and I'm going to add lime at the end anyway, so why not just go ahead and add this? So I was excited. What my favorite thing is to put these on baked potatoes. Put this season on baked potatoes. It's so good. So Joe's not really a huge fan of that lime. He won't mind the lime juice, but like this would just take it over the top. So that's why I didn't use this in his. And then smoked paprika goes in here. 1 teaspoon. Little heaping teaspoon there. And that is it for this one. So let's stir this one around. And this one cooks on high. Hold on. Got my little cheat sheet. High for 6 minutes or 6 hours. So they'll be right about the same time that they'll be getting done. And we'll be able to come back and do the big reveal and show you how we're going to actually serve them, because I have an idea of a topping for it. So we will be back in about 6 hours to enjoy some tortilla soup with you. We'll see you then. Welcome back. So it's been 5.5 hours. And as you can see, I have taken the lids off and they are still steaming. So we might be burning our mouths on this taste test. So let's go ahead and do the finishing touches. So I did dig out the 2 chicken breasts. I'm in the process of shredding them if Joe wants to watch me do it. This chicken is just falling right apart. I mean, it's just totally done. So like this is the Pioneer Woman. It was either high for 5 hours or low for 8. We did high for 5 because it more matched the quinoa. And so I'm just shredding that chicken. You could also use ground turkey or ground chicken. I wouldn't see why that would be a problem, but this is super convenient. Back in the days when I used to eat chicken, sometimes I would just put chicken in the crock pot for like a meal prep. And then the way that I shredded it is you can just use your mixer, your handheld mixer, and just stick it in there after the chicken's cooked and whoop, and it just shreds itself. It's pretty crazy that it will do that. It'll go shred. Okay, so this chicken is completely shredded. So let's add this. Whew, that is hot. Let's add this back into the soup. Okay. And let's add our lime juice to freshen it up some. So we're going to put our fresh lime in. You always put it in, so most people put it in this way. You actually put it in this way because what you're trying to do is flip it inside out to get all of the juice. So that's your little hint about the juicing. Okay. And that's what it does. So now let's stir this one up. Oh my gosh. Smells so good. Okay, so there is Joe's. Now mine, you should have seen this trick pending on how we release the videos. My trick about keeping spinach in the freezer. And I just keep it and I can just crush it, and drop it into soup. It's so convenient. I don't do the same with kale unless I do the kale myself. And the reason for that is when you buy chopped kale, it includes those stems. That's what most people don't like about the kale that you get in the store like that. Is you don't like those stems. Well, when I buy the kale at the store and I strip it off of the stems, I don't know if I've shown that in a video. We might need to add that to a video idea. Then I give I either put the stems in the freezer for something else or give it to the girls out, the chickens, or the compost. I don't eat the stems because they're kind of tough. So that's why I don't use the frozen kale like I do the spinach. Okay. So now let's stir this one. The other nice thing about putting the freezer spinach in is that it cools the soup down. So that's always nice. You can always add the spinach. And if I have fresh kale, I can add that because it doesn't take long at all to wilt. So, okay, now how are we going to top this? So there's lots of different ways. We've just done the fresh lime juice. But these are, I wonder if this camera can get it, El Milagro. I get these are fresh. Well, they're not, they're no preservative. Corn tortillas, and the only ingredients are water, corn, and lime. And I keep these in the freezer because they're so easy to just get out. And I took 3 or 4 of them and I cut them into little strips and put them in the air fryer. So let's get those out, and that's what's going to be our topping for the tortilla, for the soups. I mean, perfect for tortilla soups. I also can make them into homemade chips if I'm feeling like I want chips, like a taco salad. So it's awesome. Okay, so let's get these divvied up here and give it a try. because this is also our lunch. We've been running around like craziness. We kind of separated to get things done that needed to get done today, and then we've got more to do after we eat our soup. So we are excited. Did you want crackers, honey, or do you want the tortillas?
I'll just do the soup.
Okay. So I'm doing here you go, your spoon right here. Okay. So let's give this a shot. You could also have other toppings, such as you can buy tortilla strips, like where you buy croutons. They just have a lot of salt in them that I don't need. So you could do tortilla chips. You could do cheese for his. Lots of different ways to do it. I bet it's super hot. And there's there's two different cheeses in there for you. Oh my gosh, it smells so good, but I don't want to burn my mouth. For mine, the veggies are perfectly cooked. The quinoa is completely done. I mean, this is a complete meal. So good. I could also put it on a baked potato if I felt like I needed a little more starch. This is phenomenal. And actually, I could have doubled. I could have put a whole bag of spinach in there. This is phenomenal. So I cannot wait to eat this week. It's going to be so easy. I love lunches that have everything in one, because then I don't have to, I just have to warm up one thing or have one. I tend to do salads at night. And then I have time to go for a walk after lunch, which the doctor recommends that I go for a 10 or 15-minute walk after lunch. So if you just have one thing to heat up, then it's super, you eat it really quick and then you get out the door instead of scrolling Facebook or anything like that. So, and I'm lucky to, work somewhere where there is somewhere to walk after, when I step outside. So what did you just add to yours? You got creative. Did it need more spice?
Some Mexican cheese and then, a little bit more taco seasoning just to kick it up a little more.
Another ingredient is corn. Mm-hmm. You could add kernel corn to this. So really make it your own. I could have also added a second bean to mine. So, anytime you have a recipe, it's just a guideline of what you should do. Baking, you have to follow it a little bit more until you know what the flour does, what the baking soda does, and things like that. But with these kind of stuff, it's just a guide. And the best part is when you play with it, sometimes it doesn't work and you eat peanut butter and jelly for dinner. Other times it works and you're like, oh, that was great. So thank you all so much for joining us. Let us know in the comments, do you like tortilla soup? And are you going to try one of these? Again, this is Pioneer Woman, and Making Time for My Health is what this one was. We will have the links in the description box. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week on One Dish, Two Ways.